been a night. It's been a night, y'all. I'm so my shirt is so moist because I started this stream right after Oh, she wants to let herself be known finally. Hi everyone. We're here to finish up our little lore chat on chapter 3. This time we'll actually do the lore and some of my theories about the story involving chapter 3. This is gonna be a long one, so we gotta get straight into it, okay?
Here we go.
First things first.
Buckle up.
Now, I'm not the expert on IRL lore involving Tokyo, but I can tell you that the reason that Chiyoda City itself is used as like the center for all this king nonsense, and it was Tenshin Otori, and then Ojiro Otori became king. Well, it's because the emperor's palace in Japan is located in Chiyoda City, in the Chiyoda ward of Tokyo. That's really all I have to say about Chiyoda City. I actually have no idea why they chose to use the governing rules that they did in this city. In my eyes, all I can think of is like, it's less about internet culture and more about this concept of relevance. And you know, a lot of monarchies in the modern day are more ceremonial heads than anything else. So maybe it's trying to like satire this topic, this concept that kings, emperors, they are no longer, they're struggling to maintain relevance in modern society. That's the only reason, that's the only way I can think of, because people are executed in Chiyoda City for being deemed irrelevant. Let's talk about character lore. So let's talk about the Trash Tribe members who accompany Yo within the city. Let's start with them like we normally do. So let's talk about the new faces. Miss Enoki Yukigaya and Mr. Roku Saigo. So let's talk about this diva first. There's really not that much I can talk about him. He is a former member of the Ota tribe. So the Ota tribe was known for being a raggedy bunch, very mercenary focused, very like weapon for hire kind of thing. And so Roku is very much emblematic of the trope of the stoic, silent mercenary type. He's very background character energy. He doesn't really speak unless something needs to be said. And you know, that's a valid personality. That's a juicy personality in and of itself, but we don't really get much about his background lore in this chapter. He and Enoki are really just there to add flavor. You know, not every character is going to get huge amounts of lore each chapter, and sometimes we just need characters there to bring flavor. You know? Now this diva, I can talk a little bit more about this diva. We don't get a lot of background lore about her in chapter 3 itself, but she at least has a more extroverted personality than Roku. So she too was a former kind of sellsword mercenary of Ota City, of the Ota tribe. Her little trope is that she's the hungry character, you know, the character who's always desperate to eat more and more and more food. In terms of her personality trope, she is the unhinged, like, I don't really care about dying kind of character. Like, she's the one to crack jokes about situations that could result in people's deaths. So Enoki is really there for that comedic relief, for giving out jokes in very inappropriate times. But in the anime, so she, in the battle against the Minato tribe in the plot to assassinate Kazuki, she was the one who was kind of in charge of like the Ota tribe's technology to hamper the Minato tribe's ability to fight back, because they were trying to assassinate him using an XB match. And so they would use technology to manipulate the rules of XB so that they could engage in violence. But the one who stops her within the Minato tribe is none other than this red-headed twink, Mr. Taiga. And after he stops her, she falls in love with him. And so after that, she kind of becomes this like lovesick character who is constantly like simping over Taiga. One last thing I wanted to mention about Enoki is that Once again, this game was created by the people who created the Danganronpa series. Okay? Any of the Danganronpa girlies out there, I feel like you know exactly what I'm about to bring up. She has incredible similarities to Miss Junko, like glamour, come on now, fashion, come on now, Kanzi. She absolutely was designed in a way to be a little bit callback to Miss Junko Enoshima of Danganronpa, and her personality is even very similar. This unhinged, I don't really care about people dying around me kind of personality. So let's have a quick little catch up on the other Trash Tribe members who came along as well. So we had Miss Tsuki coming along as per usual, except this time she wasn't being shady like she was in chapter 2. She really didn't contribute too much into the actual lore. She herself was really there to give flavor, but she was also there to serve as an embarrassment to everyone that they brought along from the Trash Tribe into Chiyoda City was meant to embarrass because was the one who was struggling to make a dent in the streaming space. So the other characters who come along with us, Santoro Mito comes with us, is because he knows that Q is coming with us. And so Mita knows that Q is Ojiro, obviously, because Mita was there in the anime in the final battle against Ojiro. And Mita basically says, I don't trust Ojiro, so I'm coming with you guys so that I can keep my eye on him. Now, he doesn't really do a very good job at keeping his eye on him. Mita is really there to bring more flavor once again, like remember when I talked about Mita in the chapter 2 video, I basically said that he follows the trope of that ladies man, right? So that is a heterosexual. There's a maid cafe. So Mita is giving us comedic relief as per usual. Kazuki obviously wants to go along because Q is going along. You know, that is his best friend, his boyfriend. That is his best friend. His boyfriend. So, Q, I feel like I don't even need to explain why Q comes with us to Chiyoda City. Okay, well, we have a lot to talk about with Q. Okay, so we'll talk about him later. Let's get into the Akiba siblings next. Okay, Miss Hinagiku Akiba. So Hina is the youngest of the 3 Akiba siblings. Of the 3 siblings, she is seemingly the one who is most able to adapt to whatever situation she finds herself in. I got rid of my 0. I just noticed. Oh no, get him back on the screen. Where did he go? No, get these flops off. Oh my god. Where was I? You know. So Hina's personality is actually she's actually a very serious and stoic individual. It's just that she is very good at acting and adapting to her situation. So that's why when she came to work at a maid cafe, she ultimately was able to play the part of that cutesy little cat girl, moe, maid girl, you know? Even though that's really not what her personality is truly like. When Q speaks to her and asks her of something, that's when she lets that serious personality out. This was actually a little bit of an issue for Hina at first, when she first started out working as a waitress, because in a maid cafe, you call your patrons master. And so Hina was really struggling to call people master, because in her eyes, it felt like she was betraying her real master, Ojiro Otori, who by that point had gone missing, right? She realized that she can lie. So that's when she puts on her acting face and she becomes the absolute best maid. That's when the owner changes the name to the Hina Cafe. That's when y'all, do we need to talk about the elephant in the room a little bit? We need to talk about these big ol' hands of hers. Fashion. So just so you know, these are not prosthetic hands. She wears these big ol' gauntlets to be cute, because in her eyes she calls it gap moe, and she says it serves as a little niche. Everyone comes to know her as the maid mecha girl with big hands. In terms of her actual personality towards her master, Ojiro Otori, she sims for him very hard. She makes it very obvious that she wishes to be his bride. Anyway, let's talk about her brother next. The eldest is Mr. Ichinosuke. Let's get those veneers front and center, honey. So Ichinosuke, before I talk about his personality, we have to talk about his sad lore. So I genuinely, I remember this moment. I was streaming this game. It was a Sunday, me streaming on Sunday as I always do. And I decided to stream Tribe 9 that day. It was one of the first times I actually decided to stream Tribe 9. I said, let's do some Chiyoda City exploration. And we explored some of the city, completed some tasks on stream. And I was talking about like, oh, this week they're going to release Ichinosuke as a playable character. That's why I wanted to have the stream today, so that I could kind of like do a little bit of preparation so we can have a fun little stream with Ichinosuke once he releases. And so like, I think it was like either Wednesday or Thursday. Wednesday, Thursday comes around, the game goes on maintenance so that they could add Ichinosuke's banner so that you can pull him as a playable character. Maintenance ends. Maintenance ended really, really late, so I went to bed and I was gonna pull in the morning. I think it was gonna be Thursday morning that I was gonna be able to pull for Ichinosuke. Well, I wake up in the morning, I check the internet as one normally does, and I see the dreaded end of service announcement. So instead of releasing Ichinosuke as a playable character, as they were scheduled to do, they chose to announce end of service for this game. And you know what's even more scummy? From Akatsuki Games, never play a game from Akatsuki Games. It's like he was ready. You could play as Ichinosuke in the story. Like in this game and in many gacha games, they will give like trial characters that you can use in the story. You obviously can't like change their stats or level or anything like that. It's just to like test out the character because they're relevant to the story. So you could use him in chapter 3. So his kit was there. He was all ready to be used as a playable character. They just chose not to release him for some reason. Like they could have had all of the limited time characters just run until end of service, but instead they decided to get rid of all banners. And the only banner that is currently running is the standard banner, the permanent banner that you can get Enoki, Geo, Mew, and Q from. So basically, once the end of service announcement happened, any new players have no access to Tsuruko Senba, Kazuki Aoyama, or Hinagiku Akiba, because these were the 3 limited banner characters that they released prior to the end of service announcement. So you just literally cannot acquire these characters. I played since day 1, so obviously I have them. He is the eldest, and of the Akiba siblings, he is clearly the leader amongst them. He is the only one who really acts like a ninja in a more stereotypical way. He's giving ninja pose, he's giving ninja fashion, he's giving ninja terminology, like in the way he speaks. It still makes kind of sense for him because he actually does behave like a ninja, because he technically is a ninja for Q. So his personality, I would say that Ichinosuke is rather extroverted, but because of his line of work, he tends to stay in the back. Like anytime the conversation goes to his master Q, he is the first one to start simping over his master. But outside of any conversation topics involving his master, he typically will sit in the back and kind of guiding his siblings from there. Like he's the one helping Hina out with being that popular maid girl streamer. And he's the one who gave Saizo his orders. Like he didn't tell Hina that about Saizo's mission, because he wanted to limit how many people actually knew about Saizo working as a spy. Before we get him off the screen, can I just say, sickening shoes. That was look at the fashion statement he said. He said, I'm giving ninja sweatsuit, but there's no camouflage in these shoes, honey. He said, these shoes, fashion. Yes, and the bust-down wig, probably from he probably got his wig from the same place that Marika from Genshin Impact got hers. So honestly, he's just so camp, and it is so sad that we never got him as a playable character. Anyway, get him off the screen. We don't have more time. We need to move on. Mr. Saizo, this little gremlin. Now, when I was talking about the story, literally Mr. Saizo shows up in like 3 scenes of all of chapter 3, and in every single one of these scenes he's here to tell us that we are all very annoying, we have all annoyed him, and can they please leave him alone. So what a wonderful way to introduce him and his personality. So he is the middle sibling of the Akiba siblings. Before we go into a little bit more detail about his personality, let me just say that I believe he was meant to release alongside Ichinosuke. So Saizo was going to release as a playable character just like Ichinosuke, except he didn't get his chance because of the end of service announcement. It gets even worse with Saizo. I don't think there's any way I can look at it, unfortunately, but this game had a battle pass like most live service, gacha games do. Battle passes in these types of games will require you to do like specific tasks on like a daily, weekly, patch-wide basis, and you can earn various types of rewards. There's often a premium version of the battle pass that you can spend like paid currency on or just pay directly to get, and you can get more rewards. Well, in this game, the reward for the premium battle pass were character skins. Q's little skin right here, this little skin behind Saizo, that was his battle pass skin. Well, Saizo also got a battle pass skin. So that is so sad for him that he got battle pass skins but never got released as a playable character. Oops. There was also an event that happened prior to the release of Chapter 3. They had this little limited time like rhythm game event, and in the story of the event, it involved a hacker. Now Saizo himself is a hacker, so it turns out in the end that the hacker individual who was part of the event story was none other than Saizo Akiba. So they actually teased Saizo prior to the release of Chapter 3. In terms of Saizo's personality, outside of just being annoyed at everything, he simps for Q at a more demure level. Like, he doesn't outright simp for him, but he still seems to heavily respect Q. He does seem to be very annoyed with both of his siblings because Hina and Ichinosuke have a tendency to bicker with each other, and so Saizo gets very annoyed by them. I feel like that's why Ichinosuke picks Saizo for this mission of being a spy, right? Because Saizo is the one who prefers his own company rather than being around other people. He's a hacker dude. He's a computer nerd. Okay, the Akiba siblings could have had some really interesting lore. There is some like background lore that you can read about them, about like the reason Saizo uses a bird in his combat techniques is because he was kind of inspired as a child when I believe it was his grandmother folded a paper bird that she then released into the sky. He was just intrigued by what she did, and so that's why he kind of became this more technologically focused ninja. Would not have gotten more from Saizo, but we were actually going to get more from Hina and Ichinosuke. Where are his veneers? In chapter 4, the people who were going to accompany Yo, it was going to be Hina and Ichinosuke. Really interestingly. So they would have been able, so they were going to get more flavor in chapter 4. Okay, y'all, let's talk about the numbers now. And I don't necessarily mean Zenichi Magata. I mean all of the numbers. So I didn't mention this in the prior lore streams, but 0 actually gives yo a little teaser to the identities of all the members of the numbers within the prologue. So obviously this little teaser doesn't have Sui Yakumo in it, number 9, but that's because Sui became a member of the numbers after the prologue. This is a cute little reference. This is a cute little Mega Man reference. You have Yo in the middle, and then you have all of his bosses that he has to challenge around him. Later on, they did release some promotional like artwork that shows all of the members of the numbers lined up, and it turns out they're actually lined up in order of what number they are, because we have over here Mr. Number 1, Kazama Ichinose, and then you have over here from chapter 3, right, Mr. Number 4, Zenichi Magata. So yeah, I said chapter 3, number 4, yeah. And then in chapter 4, we have over here number 7, what was her name? Furike Ruriro, something like that. And then in chapter 5, we get Akutajin. The auto-translate, when I read the script for chapter 5, the auto-translate calls him Dust, sometimes Mustard Dust. Sickening. These other 4 didn't get their chance to show up in the actual game, but the sort of fan continuation by the creators will give us some information about them. But the reason I wanted to bring up all of the numbers right now and not just Zenichi Magata is because we talked a little bit more about the anime earlier, more about the characters who appeared in the anime, and wait a minute, no, hold on right here. Something tells me one of these characters looks familiar. Now class, do you know which character looks familiar here? That's right, yes. It's that thickening pink wig over there. Now hold on. I've seen that thickening pink wig before. That's right. One of the members of the numbers, Miss Number 3, is none other than Yui Kamiki from the Chiyoda tribe. Now quite interestingly, Miss Yui did not appear as the antagonistic villain for Chiyoda City itself in chapter 3 of the game, so you have to wonder which city she would appear in. My weird suspicion is that she would have appeared in the chapter for Setagaya City. Now if y'all remember, Setagaya City is where Mr. Kanti Pose is from, Eiji Todoroki. Now, Eiji Todoroki, he has his mansion back in Setagaya City, and all of his servants were girls in bathing suits. We definitely would have gotten Setagaya City as like a place to go to, because one of his servants, so this is the only other diva from the Setagaya tribe that we got from the anime, Miss, what was her name? Purin Ikejiri. So we have another character from Setagaya City that had the potential to become a playable character. So I have a feeling Yui Kamiki would have been the villain for that chapter, only because of that sickening thong she has going on. Look at that. This is giving me, because the lore of Eiji is that he lost a lot of his fortune after the governing rules began. So my thought process, my little conspiracy theory is that Yui infiltrated the Setagaya tribe because she infiltrated the servant, one of Eiji's servant girls, and ultimately pushed Eiji out of the Setagaya tribe and kind of took his money. So I would imagine she would she's kind of ended up the master of the mansion. And so we've gone from cunty rich boy parading around a bunch of girls in bathing suits, and we've turned it into something sapphic where you have a dominatrix over girls in bathing suits. I wanted to bring all that up with the numbers because of Yui Kamiki. Let's talk about Zenichi Magata now. We need to talk about Magata. In terms of story, aesthetically, he kind of is giving a little bit of that mad scientist energy. His personality is very mad scientist coded. I mean, to even come up with the idea that because you could possibly get revived to bring about your own death, so that you can explore the afterlife and then use your wish to revive yourself is so mad scientist coded. But honestly, what I really want to talk about with Magata is the satire that they're trying to use with him. He was also the top streamer of Chiyoda City, right? Now, I feel like this game loves to make fun of AI, and I feel like with Magata, they used AI to make fun of internet culture as a whole. How easy it can be to go viral if you strike the right aesthetic, if you strike the right personality. Because let's analyze his design. Let's take this design piece by piece. Because every little part of Magata, I feel, appeals to a different type of crowd. You know, we have the pink wig for the girly pops. We have the doll lines on the face for and the deep eyeshadow for the gauze. We have the rainbow stitches for the kids. We have the skeleton tattoo for the emos. We have the exposed chest for the simps. Whatever you think Magata sounds like, you're wrong. He has a very, very deep voice.
Very deep voice.
Can we get his voice? Can we get a little clip of Magata on the screen? I love the way the pixel art is. Look at the cute little pose that Yo just does right there. Look at that cute little pose. The little thing. Is that what you expected him to sound like? Magata has the
Deep voice.
for the, I don't know, the husbando lovers? Something like that. The Bara lovers, maybe? And then he also has the bare feet for the gooners. Magata's design is literally just this multifaceted mishmash of so many different aesthetics, all designed to become popular. And it feels like the kind of thing you would get if you ask an AI prompt, like, make me a popular VTuber model, you know? Being popular is really just about being super, super extroverted, right? And doing things like what Zenichi Magata did, right? Taking advantage of people's vulnerabilities. When people are feeling vulnerable and you have someone swoop in and make them feel safe, that's how you end up with this situation that happened in Chiyoda City. This massive cultic following for someone who is promising them what he cannot deliver, but it's what the people wanted to hear. And so they chose to believe in that. Should we go back to talking about Zenichi Magata? Oh my god. The AI, oh my god, this tangent made me discover something foul. He has the word truth tattooed on his feet. I never noticed that before. Oh my god. Only an AI DeviantArt OC would tattoo the words truth to toes. I am screaming. Oh my god. That part's going in the video. Okay, let's steer this vehicle back into the appropriate lane. I think we've all lost it at this point. We've all lost the plot. Oh. Alright, I'm sitting my butt back down on the chair. I'm so sweaty. I haven't even talked about Ojiro yet. Yo, I have so much more notes. I have so much more lore to talk about. We have to finish this. Okay, let's get back. Okay. Now, the last thing I really wanted to talk about with Magata is the way that his personality further supports the little theory I had in the chapter 2 video about how Zero isn't really a big villain. So what I said in the chapter 2 video is that Zero is very polite and that it clashes with this image of him as a world dominator, right? He uses people's names when they talk to him. Now, juxtapose that to Magata, who is exposed as someone who actively takes advantage of people's vulnerabilities in order to grow his own popularity. The way that Magata's AI crashes out and we discover the truth of Magata, that he's dead, is the fact that Magata does not know anybody's name. Now, that could just be like, AI can't have any like facial recognition or something like that. No, I think that's BS. I think the reality is that it's meant to juxtapose against Zero. Magata doesn't know anybody's name. So when Ojiro asks him, can you name any of your fans, any of the people who are here? He crashes out. That's the moniker of a villain. Okay, someone who pretends to be really nice to everyone around them, but in reality, he doesn't care about any of those people. He's only wanting to use them, take advantage of them. Meanwhile, you have Zero, who is perceived as this big bad villain who remembers everybody's name. It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that that is the way that we expose Magata. Oh, one last thing. I think isn't it kind of cute how they kind of hinted at Magata's truth, that Magata is actually dead, because within the numbers, he's number 4, right? And in Japan, the number 4 is associated with death. Anyway, okay. We need to talk about Ojiro Otori. Okay, it's time to talk about Ojiro Otori. Get this flop and his feet off the screen. One last thing about Magata before we move on. One thing I forgot to mention is that the whole reason Zero wanted us to go to Chiyoda City, because if you remember from the very beginning, the reason we went to Chiyoda City is because Zero said this is a good and easy XG for Yo to deal with, and that's because Magata is dead. Zero does not care about dead people. So in his eyes, he stopped caring about Magata. He said he considers Magata to be very boring. So he wanted Yo to go to Chiyoda City and just get it over with, basically. Ooh. All right. Let me take a sip of my water because it's time to talk about Ojiro. Okay. I need to hurry up and talk about Ojiro, otherwise this video is never going to end. Okay. Ojiro. So within the context of the game itself, Ojiro really took on that mantle of protagonist in this chapter, if only because we started to view the story through his eyes. He always wanted to make amends, technically. So at the end of the anime, Kazuki is the one who kind of tells him, you have to keep on living, because everything that you did to other people, you need to now pay it back twofold in sort of penance. And so Q agrees with him. He kind of realizes that, yes, I need to make amends. But Ojiro says that because he had to recover from injuries from the Chiyoda battle, and once he had finally recovered from his injuries, Zero had already descended onto Neo Tokyo and dominated everything. And so Ojiro said that I wanted to go to Chiyoda City this whole time, but I couldn't because Zero blocked off travel between the different cities, which I don't really buy that. That part confuses me. I feel like that's a little bit of a loophole right there, because how did the Trash Tribe come together? This rebel organization of the Trash Tribe consists of like individuals from all different cities of Neo Tokyo, and so if travel was restricted, how did all of these people actually come together? Maybe that was something that they were going to explain later on, but it kind of confuses me, and it makes me wonder if Q, I don't know, it just confuses me a little bit. Now I've talked about this man already so much, so let's just talk about his death at this point. We've talked a lot about Ojiro's philosophies, his traumatic upbringing in other places. For the sake of the length of this video, let's talk about his death. What a powerful literary use of character death and revival, because a lot of gacha games are known for not killing off characters because people pull for playable characters because they want to use them, because they want to see them used in the story, because they want to experience these characters in the story. And once a character is killed off, they can no longer be experienced within the story. So that's why a lot of gacha games, even if they introduce some kind of killing mechanic of a character, they also introduce some kind of loophole to bring them back. And a lot of people get really frustrated by those kinds of forced story mechanics, because it usually it turns to weak storytelling. You know, it really limits what you can do in the story if you have to keep everyone alive all the time. Now, this game, I think they took a really interesting and a really fun spin on that concept, because you have this concept of people coming back from the dead, but at the same time, this game's whole overarching theme is life and death, right? Now, so this game does bring into light this revival mechanic, which is often criticized. But the way they did it with Q, isn't that so genius? They killed off, Q got his redemption arc. Okay, you have 12 episodes of an anime, and this entire chapter for Ojiro Otori to be set up as a villain and then, you know, fall to rock bottom and then work his way up into his redemption arc, only for him to die at the end of his redemption arc, which in theory should close the door on his story, right? Ojiro managed to, he said himself, at least I get to die as Ojiro. And so it feels like a really nice close to the story, until Zero comes in and brings him back. Okay, but not only was Q brought back, he now no longer remembers anything about being Ojiro Otori. What a daring, ballsy literary move to have a character who is set up over the course of an entire anime to be a villain, and a whole chapter of the game dedicated to his redemption arc, only for it to be rendered meaningless at the very end. That is sickening. I love that. It's sickening and disgusting, but I love that as a literary move. Ooh, I love that. It makes you wonder, what would Q's role have been in the future if he were to accompany Yo into any of the other cities, right? Now that he no longer has that memory of being Ojiro Otori, now that he's just the Shadow Man Q, you know? Now, let's keep talking about this concept of life and death in Tribe 9. We need to talk about Zero's ending conversation with Kazuki, because at the end there, Zero lets out a little tidbit that basically Kazuki's mistaken about the process of revival. That Zero does what he can to bring people back, but sometimes there may be errors, such as in the case of Q, where he does not have all of his memories. And that stuff like bringing people back is something that happens all the time. And that Kazuki should be very familiar with this. And that Zero hates boring game overs. Now, Let's look for this. So this game has a similar mechanic to it, just like the FromSoft series. So any folks who know of like FromSoft games know that there is this online mechanic where when people die, they leave behind like a little record. In FromSoft games, it's like a bloodstain that shows other players how you died. Tribe 9 has a similar mechanic where where when people die, they like people get game over, they have these little body outlines left where they died, and I think it shows like a little bit of information about like who they were using and stuff like that. Very interesting, cute little game mechanic for a big online game, right? But in this game, I think they're doing more with it. This is what I love about video games as a medium of storytelling, because you can use video game mechanics to tell a story, and that is exactly what they're doing right here. Okay? Because, hear me out. Zero hates boring game overs. What would be a boring game over? Well, dying to a random enemy on a street is a boring game over, isn't it? So, these body outlines are not necessarily just silly little online mechanics. My theory, my little conspiracy theory, is that these are actual body outlines of when the playable characters died. When you get a game over in this game, you awaken in this little clinic. Are you picking up what I'm putting down here? Every time, all of the characters in this game are already dead. I don't think there's I don't think there's such a thing as revival going on. What I think is happening is that everyone is just a doll. A replica puppet. And when one replica dies, Zero just replaces them with a freshly grown replica. And that is how life and death actually functions within this world. So Zero can make sure that his story progresses, because he hates boring game overs. He wants the story to end up with a climactic finish, and not for the party to die to some rando on the street. Wow. Yo, during the stream, I went on so many different tangents. I don't even know if I kept the original plot of this lore stream. I went on so many tangents this time, y'all. I had a lot to say about Chiyoda City. But I hope anyway, either way, I hope you all had fun. I hope you all at least learned a little bit about this game. I hope the story of this game is really interesting to you all. This is unfortunately the last story, the last chapter of this game that we can talk about, you know, very, very freely like this, because chapter 4 and 5 are not in the game. I'm going to do the next lore stream will be for chapter 4. It's just we won't be able to visit locations in the game like we have been. So we'll have fun anyway. Anyone who wants to see all of these streams happen before they get uploaded to YouTube, just catch us live. Just catch me live. I usually stream Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday evenings. Yeah. Bye everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day or evening.